Hi, I'm Midge Shoemaker, and today is day 77 of my doing 100 days of YouTube videos and focusing on spontaneity. So, yay! I think my hair is being very spontaneous. I have these short little wispies that just haven't grown long enough to stick into when I pull my hair up. It's just not long enough, so they just decide they have to fly everywhere. It's really annoying because when I put it up, they stay back, and then throughout the day, they just kind of fly everywhere. And I'm kind of wearing sort of Christmas earrings, but not really. I don't even know what you call these, but they look kind of fun Christmassy. So I usually wear them only around the holidays. Plus, I'm wearing my Thanksgiving shirt that has Winnie the Pooh on it that you can't see. Anyway, I spontaneity things. I'm like racking my brain. What's spontaneous for today? Because I did all the things I planned to do today, but I did have one thing I was not planning on, and I am hoping to be able to remedy. We'll see. And it's my fault. It's my fault, but it's still sad. It's sad. So my sponsor came over for Thanksgiving, and she was helping me, and mostly she was just doing all of my dishes for me while I was baking food. And then she's like, "Where do all these dishes keep coming from?" I'm like, "Because I keep not only do I have a whole bunch of dirty dishes piled up, but then there was more in there." And so we took a break at one point for something. I think I was switching laundry. She needed to sit down and rest or whatever. And the dinner rolls were rising, and I just needed to start chopping the potatoes. So I said, she left some dishes sitting in the sink. And I said, okay, we just need to wash the dishes that are in the sink, just the dishes in the sink. And then we need to drain the sink so I can wash off the potatoes so I can chop them up so we can cook the potatoes. So I don't know what I did, finished putting away my clothes or whatever, but I swear I wasn't gone that long. And I went back in the kitchen thinking the sink was going to be empty. And instead, she filled it up with more dishes, which is fantastic that she can wash dishes that fast because I can't. However, I did not peruse the dishes before she washed them. And I have a stone pie. I don't want to call it tin because it's not tin, it's made out of stone, but a pie pan. That you make pie in, basically. But stoneware you can't wash with soap because the stone will actually absorb the soap, and so sometimes your food, when you cook it or bake afterwards, will taste soapy for several washes. And sometimes you can't get the soap out, so it basically can ruin your stoneware. This I know, and I've always taken very good care of this stone pie pan because it cooks my pies beautifully. I did not, however, make a pie, which I was a little disappointed in. I had all the ingredients for it. I just ran out of time and energy, mostly energy, I think, to make a pie, but a little bit of time. I didn't make it the day before like I probably should have, and I didn't, everything. I just go so slow when it comes to doing stuff, and it takes me forever to chop things up. And there's my friend doing dishes, and I'm like, you know what? It would have taken me like 3 to 5 times longer to do that as many dishes as it took her to do them. So I am super grateful that she did all of those dishes for me. And now I have just as many dirty dishes because I dirtied them all making dinner. But that's not the point. The point is that I wasn't paying attention, and I had just specifically told her we only needed to wash the dishes that were left in the sink. But she, just kept on going, which is fantastic, except that she washed my stone pot pan in the sink with the soapy water. And I'm like, you can't do that. But I didn't really get mad at her. I kind of freaked out a little bit. I was like, oh no, this is so sad. And then I kept saying, I'm like, look, this is not your fault. I'm not mad at you. You didn't know. This is my fault. I should have paid attention to what dishes I had sitting on my counter. I should have said, don't wash this. It's entirely my fault because I didn't pay attention to that. But I did inform her. I'm like, stoneware, you can't wash with soap and water. You have to wash it differently. There's other ways in which you can clean it out and wash them. The one that I learned, that I was taught or whatever, is you just cover it in oil and you use like a paper towel and cover it all up with oil, and then use like the salt, pour the salt in there to scrape out all the extra food and stuff, because the salt is coarse. And of course the salt kind of absorbs the oil a little bit, and then of course oil and water don't mix, so when you rinse off the oil and whatever with the salt, it cleans it all out. It's all gone. It catches all the food. It does whatever. It's all done. I was looking online tonight to see if there was some way to clean out the soap, and I saw that there's a baking soda paste you can make where you can make baking soda like, but it's like half a cup of baking soda. Who wants to use that much baking soda all the time? And a little bit of water, like a couple tablespoons of water to make a paste, and then you put the paste all over it, and then you let it sit for like 10 to 15 minutes, and then you scrape the paste out, and then you rinse it out to make sure you get it out. But you have to use some kind of a food cleaning product to clean it, because if you bake something in it, then it's going to have whatever that flavor is. So you'll have a little extra oil or salt, or you have a little extra baking soda, because the stone is porous, and so it will absorb whatever is sitting on it, and it doesn't necessarily come out right away, but when you bake it, some of those things will come out. So I was just kind of freaking out a little bit. And then, of course, I was looking on how to like clean it out, and so there were some things saying that if you soak it in hot water with a little bit of oil, and you can mix it up and see if any soap suds come out, and soak it for like 10 to 15 minutes. So I have hot water, and I was just gonna put it inside the pie pan, but I'm like, I have to get up over the edges, because if you put the pie crust on it, it goes up over the edges. So I'm soaking the whole thing in my sink for like 10 minutes, and then I have to let it dry out for like 2 or 3 days just to make sure I get all the water out of it. But I'm gonna salt and oil clean it before I let it sit to dry, just to make sure I get all of it out as I possibly can, or that I at least cover it up with oil and salt so that I don't taste the soap if I bake a pie in it. So now if I decide to make a pie tomorrow, I'm gonna have to use like a regular pie tin instead of my stoneware pie pan. So anyway, so it was kind of sad, but kind of a lesson learned. At least now I know that my stoneware isn't completely destroyed. I don't have to throw it away because I had a little bit of soap on it, so that makes me happy. But and also an opportunity for me to practice not blaming and yelling and completely freaking out, just calmly saying, okay, look, I know this isn't your fault. This is my fault. I'm not mad at you. It's okay. And I'm really surprised and grateful that I reacted that way. Like, I didn't overreact. I didn't freak out. I was just like, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh how sad, oh no. And then my friend's like, what? I'm like, it's not your fault. It's mine. It's mine. Let me just calm down a second. I'm so sorry. It's sad. I'm like, okay. And then she's like, what? What? I was like, it's stoneware. And she's just looking at me. And I'm like, okay, I know you don't know. It's okay. It's my fault. I thought you were only going to do so many dishes. Like, well, yeah, well, there are all these other ones. I'm like, I know. And it's awesome. And I'm so glad you did this. But stoneware can't be washed in soap. And she's like, oh. But then, of course, she repeated back to me, it's like, it's not my fault. I'm like, no, it's not your fault. I'm not mad at you. I'm not any of those things. I'm like, I'm just going to set it aside and I will deal with it later because I don't know what to do with it right now. But I just told her, I'm like, you can't wash it out like that. So then I was telling her how you have to wash stoneware. She's like, oh, I didn't know that. And I said, yeah, and then you have to do the same thing with Dutch ovens, because you can't, Dutch ovens are I don't know if they're made out of stone or not, but Dutch ovens are pretty much the same way. You can't wash them in soap and water either. So it's interesting that there is some dishes out there that you bake with, and they make stuff really good when you cook in them or bake with them, but you can't wash them with regular soap, dish soap. It's really bad, because then the dish soap sticks to it and it flavors the rest of the food. So you have to cure it, you have to treat it, you have to do it differently when you clean them out. So it's very interesting process. So and I learned this years ago when my grandma's next door neighbor gave me that pie pan and told me what to do with it, and I was super excited, and of course I made pies in it and I shared them with her. So, and I've used it since then, several times since then. So, and I was planning on using it again, and I'm like, yay, I know where my pie pan is now, but sad, I have to have to figure out how to salvage it, because my friend didn't know that stoneware is different. So anybody out there that has stoneware that is unaware that stoneware or Dutch ovens have to be washed differently, you cannot wash Dutch ovens or stoneware or stuff like that with soap and water. Just a heads up for anybody that doesn't already know that. Anyway, and apparently if you soak them or try to cure them and season them a few times, you might be able to get the soap out. But you might have to do it a couple of different times, because you can't soak them for long periods of time, but you can soak them. And then, of course, you have to let them dry for a couple of days to get all of the water out, because I was reading tonight in that process, because if you leave the water in it, too much water in there when you bake it. If there's too much water droplets left in there, it can actually crack the stoneware. And then you won't be able to use it anymore. So you have to make sure it's completely dry before you bake with it or cook with it again. So it's like, oh, lots of things I'm learning today. So this is what I have for my spontaneity, things I wasn't planning on having to deal with, but dealing with anyway. And it's okay. It's all okay, and it will all be okay, and I will still be able to use my pie pan. I just won't be able to use it probably this weekend. I'll have to wait until sometime next week, or maybe I'll have to make pies for Christmas since I didn't get to make them for Thanksgiving. We'll see. Anyway, that's all I have for today. So if you find these videos to be helpful, you like them, find them entertaining, whatever the case may be, or if you have some spontaneous things you like to share, you could comment down below. You can hit like, subscribe, or share with someone else if you think they'll like it too. And I hope you have a great day full of gratitude and maybe find something fun and spontaneous to do.